They threw me out of the house just 3 days after my husband's funeral. Not a single sincere condolence, not a sympathetic look, not even a hug. Instead, my mother-in-law handed me an envelope and said, "Our family will take care of the rest. You should go back to where you belong." I had nowhere to go. I stood there in the middle of the front yard of the house that had once been our home, with my suitcase in my hand and the cold wind hitting my face like cruel slaps. The neighbors who passed by were also stunned by my empty and trembling eyes. But my mother-in-law just closed the door as gently as if she had just closed a chapter of a boring novel. Little did they know that very moment had awakened in me something I never knew I had: the will to revenge. Welcome to Judgy Tales, where seemingly ordinary stories hide dark secrets, deep conspiracies and paybacks that will make you exclaim, "They deserved it." If you love stories of revenge, reversals and justice being restored in unexpected ways, you're in the right place. Today's story isn't simply about a woman who was kicked out of her home after her husband's death. It's about a woman who was hurt, betrayed, pushed to the edge, and then stood up with incredible strength. A woman who was once considered weak and attachment to her husband's family, turned her pain into the motivation to forever change the lives and fates of those who once despised her. You might be thinking, how could they be so cruel? Why didn't anyone defend her? Trust me, you haven't seen anything yet. Not only was she kicked out of the house, but all her assets, bank accounts and everything her husband left behind were also legally transferred to her husband's family, thanks to a will that was updated in a questionable way just a week before his death. All evidence of love, all promises from her late husband, now disappeared as if they had never existed. But what they did not expect was that she did not give up. She did not collapse. No one could have expected that the woman who once sat quietly at the corner of the family dinner table, smiling politely when being mocked for not having a stable career, could become their biggest nightmare in just 3 years. A nightmare without blood, without knives, without killing, but only cold silence and blows with strategy, law, and intelligence. The story you are about to hear is not just revenge, but a bitter and sweet reversal of justice. And by the end of this story, you might be asking yourself, if it were me, would I have the courage to do the same thing? This is where justice comes in. This is Judgy Tales. And today's story will make you look back at all those people who have ever looked down on you, with a cold smile. I was born into a family with a long-standing business tradition, a famous name in the small town where I grew up. My family owned a chain of retail stores with a brand that had existed for more than 3 generations. But for me, the early years of my life were not as easy as the perfect appearance that everyone often saw. Since childhood, I always felt like an exception in my own family. My parents, especially my mother, always had high expectations for my older brother, Brian. He was their pride and joy, the perfect son in their eyes. He was an excellent student, entrusted with the responsibility of inheriting the company, while I seemed to be just a little sister who was not given much attention. My mother was a very strict person, always following our every step. She did not hide her disappointment when I did not get high scores in exams, or when I was not interested in participating in family work like Brian. She often reminded me that women in the house only need to know how to keep the house warm, and that business is the job of men. My brother Brian was not a warm person either. He always saw me as an obstacle, an unnecessary younger sister. Every time I wanted to participate in meetings or activities in the company, he would find a way to prevent or ignore my opinions. To him, I was just a girl who knew nothing and should not interfere in business matters. But things did not stop at family. We also had a network of friends and partners, people who I thought would support me, but in the end made me feel more alone than ever. Family members, longtime friends, and even colleagues in the company did not really trust or support me. At that time, I felt like I was abandoned in a spiral of contempt and silence. I was the only one not invited to the family's important business meetings. They didn't even think I had the right to know about the big plans, the decisions that would directly affect the future of the company and the family. I remember clearly that day when I walked into the meeting room without being greeted by anyone. The door slammed behind me and there was a burst of laughter from inside. They laughed at me. Laughed because I was unworthy, because I wasn't trusted, because I wasn't good enough to participate in big decisions. That feeling made my heart feel like it was being squeezed, a pain that no words could describe. But not only was there isolation, I also had to face rumors and malicious words from those close to me. Some said I was just a useless daughter without talent, only knowing how to bother the family. Some others thought I was deliberately showing off to attract attention or building a career by relying on the family name. Those rumors were like knives stabbing straight into my self-esteem, making me even more determined to prove myself. In addition, I had to struggle with financial pressure and strict family expectations. Everyone believed that I would give up, that I would succumb to that oppression and isolation. But deep down, I knew that I could not let those loved ones who had laughed at and rejected me win. I had to stand up, I had to find a way to change my life. So I decided to leave my family home, leave the city where everyone knew me as a failure to start over from zero. I moved to another city where no one knew me to build my own future. In the early days, everything was difficult. I had to do everything to make a living, from odd jobs to jobs in small shops, even staying up all night to study more about business, finance, marketing, and business administration. I not only wanted to start over, but also wanted to become someone that my family could no longer ignore. I started by building a small brand, focusing on minimalist, natural, and aesthetically pleasing products. I named the brand Ember and Oak, symbolizing resilience and perseverance like the smoldering fire under the ancient oak tree. I leveraged the power of social media, created creative and friendly marketing campaigns, and built a loyal customer community through personalized shopping experiences and excellent customer service. Step by step, Ember and Oak began to thrive. I opened the first branch right next to my family's store in Portland, where they were struggling with declining sales and customer dissatisfaction. This was no coincidence. I studied their weaknesses and created a new business model that suited modern trends and market needs. As my brand became more popular and widely accepted, I didn't stop there. I began quietly collecting shares from small shareholders in the family business who were frustrated that the company was no longer growing as before. I showed up at investment meetings, seminars, and networking events as a potential investor, not knowing that I was the girl they had rejected and looked down on. My goal was not only to take revenge by taking over the family business but also to change it in a way that I believed was right. When I had enough shares to control the company, I held a surprise shareholder meeting, announced my ownership, and proposed a comprehensive restructuring plan. I closed the unprofitable branches, changed the management team, optimized the supply chain, and took the family business to a new level with a modern and flexible operating model. My family's reaction was shocking. Brian, who had looked down on me, lost power and eventually left the company in disappointment. My mother, who had been strict and full of expectations, could only look at me with a mixture of surprise and sadness. However, the most important thing is not revenge or power, but the transformation of myself, from an abandoned girl to the head of a business empire. I have proven that no one has the right to decide your worth except yourself. My success is not only a gift to myself but also a reminder to everyone who has been looked down upon, rejected, that we can stand up and rewrite our own story. This story is not a story of hatred. It is a story of perseverance, determination, and the power of never giving up. Through each step of my journey, you will see pain, disappointment, but also hope and victory. And you, the one who is listening to this story, may find in it a ray of light, an inspiration to change your life. Everything I had dreamed of seemed to collapse in an instant, as everything changed in a way I could never have imagined. It was what I call the darkest day of my life, a day when not only everything turned upside down, but also drained every last drop of hope I had left in my heart. It all started with small family rumors that spread like wildfire. At first, I thought it was just a small matter, just baseless gossip, but gradually it became a raging storm, sweeping away everything I had worked so hard to build. Those words came not only from strangers but also from the closest people I once trusted. My brother, Brian, not only kept silent, but actively spread false information about me in the family company. He said that I was greedy, deliberately destroying harmony and causing instability in the organization. My mother, under pressure from the extended family, began to believe those words, and her attitude towards me became increasingly cold. I found myself cut off from all activities, decisions, and even family interests. Soon, a major incident occurred. Brian had conspired to convince the board members and major shareholders to remove me from the company by accusing me of financial fraud. Although I had no evidence to back up the accusations at the time, I knew it was an elaborate plot, a direct blow to my reputation and position. I was summoned to a special meeting of the board, where all those who had supported me now turned their backs. their eyes shining with skepticism and suspicion. I stood there, feeling stripped naked and with nowhere to run. The accusations and false evidences presented to me made me feel like I was being crucified in front of everyone. My mother was present in that meeting room, but she was silent, not a word of defense or defense. That was the first time I realized that, in this life, there are people who will not hesitate to betray you just to keep power and money. That was also the time I felt the ultimate loneliness, a bitter, numb feeling that no words can describe. Things got worse when I was forced to leave my family home, the place I used to call home. I no longer had the right to live in that house, no longer had the right to participate in the family business, and no longer could I be called a family member. They said that I had ruined the family's reputation, that my presence only harmed the stability and development of the company. I became homeless, penniless, relying on the help of strangers and the temporary jobs I could find. Every day was a struggle with the pain of loss, with a deep sense of betrayal. But in that storm, a small flame inside me remained unburned. The flame of determination, of the desire for revenge and to prove myself. I remember clearly the sleepless nights when I sat in my tiny rented room, silently staring out the window, wondering if I still had the strength to stand up. The feeling of being abandoned, of being forsaken, but at the same time, a strange force urged me to do something greater than myself. And then, the next incident happened, a shocking event not only for me but for the entire family. The family business began to fall into serious crisis. Brian, the company's head, was unable to effectively manage the business operations, leading to heavy financial losses. Major partners began to withdraw, employees lost confidence and left in droves. Stores closed, sales plummeted, and the company's reputation was tarnished, putting it on the brink of bankruptcy. I received the news in a phone call from a close friend who had worked at the company. I knew this was the moment when everything could change, not just for the company but for my own life. Instead of feeling elated or satisfied with my family's failure, I felt a great sense of responsibility. This was my chance to not only save the situation but also to affirm my own worth. I began to formulate a plan of action, a plan of revenge that was also filled with wisdom and compassion. I would take back what was mine not just by destroying but by rebuilding from the rubble. I quietly collected data, financial reports, and Brian's management shortcomings, while simultaneously strengthening my own brand. Every step was carefully calculated. I connected with investors, lawyers, and business experts to prepare for a revolution that would completely change the landscape. When I started buying back shares from small shareholders, no one expected me to succeed. They still thought I was a weak girl, inexperienced, not capable enough to run such a large company. But the truth is, I have been learning constantly, improving my skills and knowledge to become a true leader. The climax of the story was when I held a special shareholders meeting, a meeting that Brian and my mother did not expect. I announced my new ownership, presented a comprehensive restructuring plan to save the company from bankruptcy. It was not only a legal victory but also a spiritual victory. Their reaction at that time was unforgettable. Brian looked at me with a confused, angry, but also a little scared look. My mother shed tears, not because of disappointment anymore but because of regret and pain when realizing that the daughter she had abandoned had now become the savior of the family. I didn't stop there. I worked hard to implement the changes I had proposed, cutting unnecessary costs, improving product quality, rebuilding trust with customers and employees. Step by step, the company came back stronger than ever. But the story is not just about revenge or success. It is also a lesson in perseverance, in the power of human will. I went through the darkest days when everything seemed to be against me. But by standing up, not giving up, I proved that everyone has the right to rewrite their own story. My story is not a call for blind revenge, but a message that no matter how many times you are knocked down, remember that the true strength lies within you. Challenges and pain are just stepping stones for you to become stronger. And you, the one listening to this story, what do you think about my journey? If you were ever abandoned, betrayed, what would you do? Do you have the courage to stand up, fight, and take back what is yours? Share your thoughts below in the comments section, because every story has its own value and we learn from each other every day. If you love this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell on the Judgy Tales channel so you don't miss the next videos, where we will explore more dramatic and emotional stories together. After being pushed out of my family, losing everything I had ever called mine, there was not only pain in my heart, but also a fierce fire burning inside me. A fire of determination that would never give up. I could not let those who had betrayed me continue to enjoy the sweet fruits of success that I should have shared. I knew one thing for sure. To get revenge, I needed a perfect plan, not just a momentary anger. At first, I spent many sleepless nights sitting in a small rented room, writing down every detail, every event that happened, every relationship, every loophole in the story that my family had created to eliminate me. I realized that, to regain my justice and my place, I needed to become stronger, smarter, and prepared like a true warrior. The first thing I did was focus on regaining my financial independence. I couldn't rely on anyone, and I couldn't let anyone think I was dependent. I started looking into small business opportunities, saving money step by step from the freelance jobs I could do. Every penny I earned, I saved carefully to build my war chest. But I knew that money alone wasn't enough. I needed a deeper understanding of business, especially the family business, where I had been an important part but was pushed aside. I turned to online courses on business administration, finance, marketing, and even corporate law to equip myself with the necessary knowledge. I learned and trained myself, not letting anything slow me down. In parallel with my studies, I began to quietly learn about the old company, from the partnerships, small shareholders, to the internal problems that Brian and other relatives were facing. I reached out to former colleagues and friends in the industry who could provide me with important information. Each story they told me was a valuable piece of the puzzle that I was slowly building. I discovered that Brian and his team had made a number of management mistakes, from misusing budgets to losing trust with major clients, to even signs of small fraud in contracts. I collected all this evidence carefully, like a hunter gathering necessary clues before making a decisive move. Meanwhile, I also built a network of reputable lawyers and financial experts. They helped me better understand my legal rights and the steps I needed to take to protect and regain my assets and position in the company. I learned to use the law as a weapon, an indispensable tool in this fight. A key part of my plan was to convince small shareholders and loyal employees to stick with me. I knew that I and my family alone would not be enough to change the situation. I had to be someone they believed in and were willing to stand with. I took the time to go to each place, meet each person, listen, and share my story sincerely. My persistence and enthusiasm moved many people, and they began to stand by me. Meanwhile, Brian had no idea what was happening behind his back. He was still confident in his current position and even subjective when confronting me. That gave me a big advantage because I could move secretly and silently without being detected. One of the big turning points in my plan was when I decided to buy back shares from small shareholders. This was not an easy task when my financial resources were limited, but I made a detailed plan, negotiated skillfully to gradually collect shares. Each share bought was a step closer to my power and return. During this process, I also faced many challenges, from threats, dirty tricks from Brian and his group, to times when I felt tired, discouraged, and doubted myself. But every time I remember the pain I experienced, remember the painful betrayal, and that became a strong motivation for me not to stop. In addition to strengthening my financial and legal aspects, I also focused on building my personal image and communication. I started appearing at industry events, building my reputation, and using social media to convey my story in a wise and powerful way. I wanted the world to know that I was not just an abandoned woman, but also a resilient warrior who could stand up and win. What I learned in this process is, revenge is not just a hasty revenge but a battle of intelligence, an art of balancing strength and patience. I have to know when to attack, when to retreat, when to listen, and when to speak up strongly. It is that calmness and wisdom that creates the true power in my revenge plan. The climax came when I was preparing for the special shareholders meeting, where I would publicly announce my new position and my plan to radically transform the company. In advance, I had prepared a strong, convincing presentation that not only outlined the errors and shortcomings that Brian had caused, but also offered a clear and ambitious solution to save the situation. I was also prepared for fierce opposition from Brian and my mother, who would do anything to stop me. But I was no longer afraid. I knew that this was the decisive moment, the moment for me to prove myself and take back what was mine. When the meeting day arrived, I walked into the meeting room with unwavering confidence. I saw the surprised, even panicked eyes of Brian and my mother as I announced my new ownership and announced my restructuring plan. The small shareholders also expressed their support, because they were tired of poor management and needed real change. The meeting was tense, but I kept my cool and used each sharp argument to convince everyone. As a result, I won the majority of votes, officially becoming the new leader of the company. But my revenge plan did not stop there. I started implementing each step in the restructuring plan. Cutting costs, improving product quality, rebuilding the staff, and especially rebuilding trust with customers and partners. Each step was full of challenges. There were times when it seemed like I would fail, but I persevered and never gave up. And then, step by step, the company revived, its reputation was restored, profits increased again, and those who had looked down on me had to look at me with different eyes. My family's reaction also changed. Brian and my mother realized that they had misjudged me, and deep down I saw a little regret in their eyes. But I am not someone who forgives easily, at least not right now. I want them to understand that the betrayal and pain I suffered are unforgettable, and that each step of my success is a testament to my strength and resilience. This revenge plan not only helped me regain what I had lost, but also transformed me into a new person, stronger, more confident, and wiser than ever. I learned that, in this life, betrayal and failure are just challenges for us to grow and mature. After much perseverance and meticulous planning, I saw the results of my revenge. My company, which had been manipulated by Brian and my mother, had now revived strongly, not only financially but also in terms of reputation and team spirit. Those who had doubted and opposed me now looked at me with admiration and respect. My return was not only about taking control of the business, but also about restoring my honor. Brian, who had been my brother and also my betrayer, now had to suffer the consequences of his actions. My mother did not admit defeat, but her eyes and attitude had changed, no longer as arrogant as before. The company was restructured, ineffective projects were eliminated, and the working environment was significantly improved. I not only took back what I had lost but also built a solid foundation, proving that I was not just an outcast but also an excellent leader. In my personal life, I learned to forgive myself and those who had hurt me. Revenge did not make me a cruel person, but on the contrary, it helped me grow, become stronger, and appreciate the value of patience and courage. However, the ending of the story was not entirely sweet. The relationship between Brian and I still had many problems, and it was not easy to mend immediately. My mother still kept her distance, and many other relatives could not completely accept my change. But I believe that time will help heal all wounds. Through this journey, I realized that revenge is not the ultimate goal but a means to find myself again, to conquer myself and build a new life. I leave my story as a message to you. When you are betrayed or hurt, how will you choose to face it? Will you let go or stand up and fight? Please share your thoughts and stories in the comments section below. Judgy Tales hopes to create a community where people can speak their truth, learn, and inspire each other. If you feel this story helps you gain more strength, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Judgy Tales channel so you don't miss the next honest and emotional videos. Turn on notifications to always be updated as soon as possible. Life is never a straight path, and neither is my story. I still keep going, carrying the strength from myself, faith, and lessons from the past. The story you have just heard is not just a simple journey of revenge, but also a complex picture of family, trust, betrayal, and the inner strength of human beings. Now, I would like to take the time to hear your opinions. Those who have accompanied this story. Let's discuss it frankly and deeply. What do you think about the main character's actions? Was she really right to choose revenge in that way? Some people will say that revenge is a negative action, only making things worse. But others believe that standing up against injustice and protecting yourself is necessary. Which group do you belong to? Have you ever experienced the feeling of being betrayed, abandoned, or undervalued in life? So, what did you do to overcome it? Family is supposed to be the most peaceful place, but in this story, it is the place that contains the most conflicts and pain. Do you believe that family love can heal everything, or are there wounds that cannot be healed no matter how hard you try? If you were the main character, would you choose to confront those who hurt you directly, or would you choose to stay silent and build your own life? The story also raises a big question about the power of perseverance and personal effort. From being an outcast, being laughed at, how did the main character become successful and completely change the game? What do you think is the most important factor that helped her succeed? Learning, patience, or determination? Can you apply these lessons to your life? When talking about revenge, many people immediately think of direct retaliation, causing pain to the other person. But in this story, revenge is done by building success, by standing up strongly without destroying anyone else. How do you see this revenge as different from other classic revenge stories? Do you agree that success is the most effective form of revenge? There are times when the main character faces extreme loneliness and hardship. What do you think about the role of outside support during difficult times? Have you ever received any important help in life that helped you overcome the challenge? And if you were the main character, would you have the confidence to go on that path alone, or would you seek help from others? In addition, the story also evokes a thought about forgiveness. Despite the successful revenge, the main character still has cracks in family relationships. Do you think forgiveness is necessary to truly free yourself from the past? Are you willing to forgive the person who hurt you? The main character's story is also very realistic when describing the feeling of being abandoned and despised in the place you once called home. Have you ever felt left out of the game in your family, friends, or work? How did you deal with that feeling? Can you share how you overcame it or are still struggling? Leave a comment about the part of this story that resonated with you the most or resonated with you the most. What do you think made the main character strong and different? What would you do if you were in a similar situation? Also, if you have a similar story or valuable lessons from your own life, please share them with the Judgy Tales community. We want to hear your voice and together create a space for sharing that is honest, powerful, and inspiring. If you find this story inspiring or makes you rethink your own life, please give us a like to show your support. A like not only helps this video reach more people, but also shows that you want to see more true, profound, and touching stories like this. Don't forget to subscribe to Judgy Tales so you don't miss any new videos. We will continue to bring you real, honest stories with life lessons that you can't find anywhere else. Click the subscribe button now, and turn on the notification bell to receive updates as soon as new videos are released. You can also share this video with friends and family who may be going through a difficult time or need inspiration to stand up. The main character's story can be a powerful encouragement to help them not give up. Leave your thoughts in the comments section and join our conversation. What stories would you like to hear next? Do you have any suggestions for topics that you find interesting and meaningful? We always listen and appreciate your contributions. Judgy Tales is not only a storytelling channel, but also a community connecting real people who want to overcome challenges, grow, and become stronger from their own stories. Thank you for taking the time to listen, share, and accompany us. See you in the next videos, where each story can change your life in ways you never expected.